This is the White Horse of Uffington in what is now Oxfordshire in the UK. We don't know who made it. For most of its history, all we knew was that it had been there as long as anyone could remember. It was only 35 years ago that we learnt these marks had first been carved into this hillside over 3,000 years ago. Chalk downlands are an ecosystem found primarily in the British Isles, western continental Europe, and some parts of the western US. The rolling hills and soft underlying chalk lend themselves to the making of hill figures, geoglyphs formed by cutting back the turf to expose the bright white chalk beneath. There are geoglyphs of varying sizes, styles, and themes across the south of England. We have a good idea when many of them were made, but the older ones, like the Sir Nabas Giant in Dorset or the Long Man of Wilmington, the history does get quite fuzzy. The age of the Uffington horse was established in 1990 by a team from Oxford Archaeology. Optically stimulated luminescence testing showed that the chalk beneath the horse markings had been last exposed to sunlight sometime between 1380 and 550 BCE. In order for a hill figure to last, it must be maintained. If left untended, the figure would be overgrown within a decade. The work of scouring and rechalking them is relatively simple, but, like gathering a crop or raising a barn, it is made much easier and more fun if approached as a social occasion. We don't know how the horse was maintained in its first millennia, but in recent centuries the local landowner would call for a pastime, a festival during which the horse would be tended. These were roughly every 7 years, and people might travel from across the county or even the country for them. Many of the other geoglyphs of England are also horses. Archaeologist David Miles notes that the creation of many lesser horses aligns with the dating of a pastime. It's not hard to imagine people returning to their villages and saying, let's make our own. So what about us? Long Now London have been meeting with varying degrees of frequency and effort since at least 2010. Since 2018, we've met in a pub every second Thursday of the month. In 2019, we were looking for something we could maintain together. And here's how it goes. Earlier in the year, the horse is scoured, which means weeded. Before the chalking, chalk from the other side of the hill is broken into rubble sacks and brought close enough to be hand-carried as necessary. We set off early in the train, going against the flow of London's remaining commuters. Many of us come from London, but others come from Bristol, Oxford, the towns nearby, or, on occasion, they come from overseas. We each take a lump hammer, gloves, and the kind of foam kneeler used by gardeners. People take turns in carrying buckets of chalk from the bags to where it is needed next. The National Trust team aim for an even spread across the whole horse, carried out over a period of a few days. By the end, the greying horse is bright white again, ready for a new year. Every year, someone asks if the work will be hard. I tend to say it will be as hard as you make it. The chalk breaks easily and quietly under the weight of the hammer. There's not much swinging required. The main hazards for those used to sitting in chairs indoors are sore knees and sunburn. What the work definitely is social. Conversations strike up in groups working on particular areas. Discussion cross-pollinates as people switch roles or positions. By late afternoon, it's time to take the conversation down to one of the nearby village pubs. The local beers flow with enthusiasm until it's time to catch a train home. I've heard it said in Long Now circles, and I'm sure I've read it somewhere, that there are 4 ways that we can allow things to last a really long time. We can make them tough, we can forget about them, we can make them hard to reach, or we can encourage people to care for them. Jem Finer says of the Long Player project that he deliberately designed it to require upkeep. He was as interested in the social structures required to allow a piece of music to last for 1,000 years as he was in the way that music might sound. This horse has been there for 3,000 years. We don't know why, who made it, or what it was for. But we do know that it only lasted that long because people cared for it. Their reasons may have changed, but ultimately they gave us this horse. It was their gift to us. Now it is our turn to pass it on. During the 2020 lockdowns, Ian Godfrey, a researcher in Australia, compared aerial photos from the early 20th century to recent pictures of the horse. He found that, while remaining the same overall length and height, the form had lost a large percentage of its volume since the 1930s. With the approval of English Heritage, the site is a scheduled ancient monument. Plans are currently underway for the horse to be fattened up. Just this month, we at Long Now London have been asked to assist the National Trust and Oxford Archaeology with carrying out the works. So, what might you maintain? What, near you, do you want to last? And if you think of something, why don't you come and tell us? If any of this has been of interest, do please get in touch. And if you find yourself in London on the second Thursday of any month, come meet us in the pub.